In this video, we're going to look at the Triumph 2500S, understand why on earth the engine blew up and just down, and we're going to do a full-on engine autopsy. Now, you'll have noticed I'm dressed for a full-on surgical review. Stay on to the very end because I'll show you a very practical engineering tip that's been around for decades that means you don't have to bother with all this garb, and it will help you fix your car. But first, of course, we go get this engine out. Right, first things first, being ginger. Just make sure I'm not going to get sunburnt. I'm not taking any blinking chances. Decades of being ginger, no fun. Right, well, I suppose first thing is consult the manual, how to remove the engine. The only trouble is this book has been lent to me by a friend and it's a bit broken. Let's have a look. Chapter 1, engine. Duke, as you can see, has found a sock inside and is currently running around the garden trying to get away. Some kind of weird game, I'm not quite sure what that's all about. Methods of engine removal. All cases it has to be withdrawn from below once the front suspension has been removed. Estimated 5.5 hours, less with experience, so it could be 10 or 15 hours. We'll just keep going. Okay, let's get to it. Show you what's going on. Gloves and a very handy persuader. You never know when this might come in handy. And the fundamental thing I have not done yet, but I will do right now, is get the battery off. We don't want any nasty sparks. And one good point Harry just mentioned was to make sure we take loads of photographs so we can see what's what on reassembly. It's not a bad tip, so we'll just do that now. First use as a persuader. That's it, got those washers loose. Either way, the battery is now officially out. Right, we just had a slight time out there because we've been to Will, my mate, across the road to his man cave down at Throop and borrowed an engine lift, which will come in very handy. We won't be using it just yet because so far all I've done is get the battery out. So most of the morning getting the battery out. Anyway, hopefully we'll crack on this afternoon and Duke's going to help, aren't you, Duke? Good boy. Right, Harry.
All right.
Yes.
After all that.
How does an elephant ask for a sticky bun?
Go on.
Give me a sticky bun, please. Sorry. Okay, so onto axle stands safely so we can get in there.
Oh, there's oil there.
You all right, Arry?
Yeah.
Is there any oil?
I didn't expect that.
Harry's now draining oil. We have oil. Well, that's good news.
Quite a lot of oil.
8 pints it says total. There's some dripping around this exhaust here, which I suspect.
That's coolant coming down, but I have just cracked off a couple of pipes at the top. So.
Oh, yeah, okay, fine. That's looking good. Does it smell all right?
It's good. It smells a bit burned, but
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me now.
Okay, so safely stacked on the chassis. And there's a bit of a spare in there just in case of a fall. I'll just put an extra axle stand in there just for the hell of it. So oil is coming out. I can't see underneath the engine to see whether that block blew out. I'll come round. And this is the first time I've had a proper decent look underneath this car. And apparently we have a hole up there somewhere. I can't see it currently.
You might get a bit wet here, so careful.
Okay, I'm going to get a bit wet, so I might have to move out of the way. Okay, so we're now in a position to have a analysis of what's happened to the engine. Now we've got all the ancillaries off, and if I pan round, I've actually put a mirror in there so you can see the true extent of the damage, and it's absolutely shock horror. It looks like it's been hit by a torpedo. That's the size, beg pardon, that's the side of the crankcase there at the bottom of the engine. That's the engine bottom end. That's where the crankshaft is, or what's left of it, I think, and we'll know more when we take it apart later on further. but that definitely shouldn't be there. Now this potentially could be fixed. I've seen videos online. This is made of cast iron, very brittle. There is a method called cold stitching, which isn't, you can't weld this, but you can cold stitch the crankcase back together. Personally, I think it's going to be a major job to do that, but potentially it could be done. We don't know what's going on inside. We need to hang on and have a look at that and see what damage lies beneath once we get the engine out. But I just thought I'd share with you just what damage there's there. I mean, that is literally, that's the size of my blinking fist. Look at that. It's like it's been hit by a 10-pound cannonball. Shattered beyond belief. What kind of forces must have caused that? I'm very, very shocked. I knew things were bad, and initially I thought it was just gearbox at the roadside, but if you look there now, having taken everything off the engine, you can really begin to see what's going on. I'm flabbergasted. I really don't know what to say. All I did say was, yeah, remind you that stay on to the end. I will show you a little engineering tip that I promised at the start, and obviously we need to get into this and understand far more than we do currently, but early indications are that is pretty damn serious, and I'm sure you get an appreciation now of just what we went through when the thing blew up on the M74. I guess half the engine has been left down there banging around on the inside lane of the motorway as we came to a grinding halt. Literally a grinding halt. Unbelievable. Okay, so end of day one, and what have we done? Pretty much all the ancillaries are off. Tomorrow we've got to go and have a look at the steering pump. That's got to come off. I've got that exhaust manifold off, which is good. There's a certain minor little hole there. We're going to have to look at that when we get the engine out. We've just taken the radiator out as well, so we're all clear pretty much. But for that, if I come around this side, we've taken off the front of the Eddy's nose. There's a radiator, various other bits and pieces. Just going to tidy up because the day has just flown by. On this side, we're all clear. Fuel I've just detached, and yeah, we're good to go once we get the power steering rack or pump sorted. And then we've got an eyelet at this end here, and there's one on the back here. So we're not going to take the gearbox out if we can avoid it. So gearbox bolts tomorrow, and hopefully we can lift it forward and remove the engine. And what I want to do is get underneath it and have a really good look to see what damage we've got inside. But that's enough for one day, or I'm going to get into trouble. It's going to take me about half an hour to tidy up. Look at the mess. But very grateful for my sun tan cover, saving my freckles and my sunburn. So there you go, more in the morning. Heavy thunderstorms tonight, so I better cover her up. Thanks, Eddie. See you in the morning. Okay, this is day two, and we've woken up to thunderstorms and lightning overnight. Glad I put the cover over the car, but I think, as you can see, we've ended up with a bit of a swimming pool, but I really don't fancy climbing about in too much. Now, some of you might say, you've got a garage, Tony, why don't you do it in there? Well, unfortunately, the rest of the family beat me to it. It's full of Silver Cross prams and other stuff, so that's why it's not in there. Anyway, I'm hopeful that the weather will improve later. There's a bit of blue sky over there if you squint, and maybe we can get down to it later on. Meanwhile, lots to get on with. Okay, well, it has stopped raining marginally, and we're going to crack on as much as we can between showers. Quite a few thunderstorms forecast for later on. As you can see how daft it is, one day wearing suntan lotion and t-shirts, the next in fleeces. So anyway, let's crack on, get back to the car, see if we can get this thing fixed. Now I guess whatever happens, given the damage we saw here yesterday with the cannonball hole through the side of the engine round about the fifth and sixth cylinder. Stuff like that potentially can be stitched, cold stitch they call it. You might laugh your head off when you hear me say that, but apparently they can. It's quite a specialist skill, but I guess the acid test will be to see what happens when we take the rocker cover off, because I'm not sure whether it was a top end issue or a bottom end issue that blew this engine. Now I've undone the three retaining nuts on the top of the rocker cover. I'm just going to allow to open the cover up and see what's beneath, because either way I'm going to take the head off before I get the engine out. It'll make it lighter weight, and if we do have to use a new engine, maybe I can use the existing cylinder head off this one if it's okay. But of course, all these are ifs and buts, and we're getting pretty close now to having to make a decision one way or the other, I think, about this engine, now that we can see it in its full glory. So let's go in. To a layman's view, I can't see anything obviously wrong at a first glance, but that's not to say that there isn't anything wrong, and no doubt one or two of you will have an opinion. Either way, to get the head off, I have to undo each of these nuts and under here, which is why I had to take the roof off just now so I can get to them. I've probably got to take this top rail off as well, next step, such that I can then get the head off and we can have a look at the pistons underneath and see what's what. But on the face of it, it doesn't look too bad, unless I've missed something that I haven't seen too obvious. It's going to be down this back end. That's where the problem was on the 6th and 5th cylinders. So it's either 6 or 5 here, one of these two. Let's have another look at the push rods, cam followers, I think they're called. Can't see if any are bent or not. Don't know, is that bent? Could be. No, it rotates okay, but it could be bent a bit actually. Might be a bit bent. It's not going the full way around as others do. Okay, well, off with its head, as they say, is going to be the next step. Let's see what happens. Okay, now as promised, I was going to give you an engineering top tip. It comes from my father-in-law, who is a precision engineer. He taught me this a long time ago. It's very, very handy. Obviously, use your loaf. Don't be unsafe with this, but the technique you can use involves this stick, and I'll show you in just a second. Obviously, this engine isn't running, but here's the deal. Now, let's assume the engine is running, and there may be a bit of a noise from underneath that you can't really see where it's coming from. Well, if you put the stick against the, in this case, the crankcase or the rocker cover, or even the water pump housing, that kind of thing, and then you put your ear to it at the other end whilst you're holding it on that position, obviously be safe, but you can actually hear all sorts of whirring and gears breaking down or whatever. There's usually the sound gets transferred through basically a piece of wood. So there you go, that's the top tip for Arry the Stag. Try it out, see how you get on. Be careful, as I say, please. But top tip involves a lump of wood. Listen to your ear and you can hear things going on inside the engine that you can't normally hear otherwise. Okay guys, well I did warn you it was going to be a bit like open heart surgery, and as you can see here, quite a lot of the engine has come apart already. What I'm going to do another video following this one. You can come back and watch what happens when we take the engine out and actually do a full diagnostic underneath, apart from the hole in the side. So that's one thing we need to be aware of, and a big question mark over the future of this engine. If you can't wait till that long, check our next video and you'll see some more Stag engine shenanigans. So go there and have a look at that. Cheers for now.